No. The heart monitor was the only sound in the room, a rhythmic countdown to an ending no one expected. Sherry Collins lay fading, her body failing under the weight of a high-risk pregnancy, waiting for the husband who swore to love her in sickness and in health. But when the door finally opened, Liam didn't bring a doctor, and he didn't bring comfort. He brought a lawyer, with his mistress waiting in the Ferrari outside. He looked at his dying wife and the unborn twins she carried and uttered 7 words that would seal his fate. "I can't be tied to a corpse." He signed the divorce papers and walked out, leaving her to die. He thought he was free. He didn't know that his greatest enemy, billionaire Alexander King, was watching from the shadows, and he was about to turn Sherry's tragedy into Liam's worst nightmare. Rain lashed against the reinforced glass of the ICU window at St. Jude's Medical Center in Seattle, blurring the city lights into a smear of gray and charcoal. Inside room 404, the atmosphere was even colder. Sherry Collins lay propped up by pillows that felt more like stones, her skin the color of parchment. The monitors surrounding her were a fortress of technology keeping her alive, their wires snaking under her hospital gown. At 7 months pregnant, she should have been glowing. Instead, she was fading. The diagnosis was severe peripartum cardiomyopathy combined with preeclampsia. Her heart was failing to pump enough blood for both her and the twins. She turned her head weakly as the heavy oak door clicked open. A flicker of hope ignited in her chest, painfully tight. "Liam?" she whispered, her voice raspy from days of limited fluid intake. Liam Calloway stepped into the room. He looked immaculate. His navy bespoke suit was tailored to perfection, a stark contrast to the sterile, chaotic reality of the hospital room. He didn't look like a grieving husband. He looked like he was arriving for a board meeting he didn't want to attend. He didn't come to the bedside. He stayed near the foot of the bed, maintaining a sanitary distance. "The doctor said you were awake," Liam said, his tone devoid of warmth. He checked his watch at Patek Philippe she had bought him for their 5th anniversary. "I've been waiting," Sherry managed, tears pricking her eyes. "The pain, Liam. The babies. They said if I don't stabilize soon, they have to operate. It's dangerous." Liam sighed, a sound of impatience rather than empathy. He reached into his leather briefcase and pulled out a thick document bound in blue paper. He tossed it onto the rolling table at the foot of the bed. It landed with a heavy thud that seemed to echo over the beeping monitor. "We need to be realistic, Sherry." She looked at the papers, her vision blurring. "What is this? Is it the insurance for the surgery?" "It's a divorce settlement," Liam stated flatly. The air left the room. Sherry felt her heart stutter, the monitor speeding up in a frantic rhythm. Beep, 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 beep. "Divorce?" She choked out the word. "Liam, I'm dying. Our children." "That's exactly the point," Liam interrupted, his jaw tight. "I spoke to the specialists. They gave you a 20% chance of survival, Sherry. 20. If you die, I am left with massive medical debt and 2 premature infants requiring round-the-clock care. My company, Callaway Tech, is on the verge of its IPO. Investors are jittery. They need a CEO who is focused, not a widower changing diapers and drowning in grief." Sherry stared at him, unable to process the cruelty. This was the man she had supported when he was a junior developer working out of a garage. She had used her inheritance to fund his first server farm. "You're leaving me because I might die?" "I'm cutting my losses," Liam corrected, adjusting his cufflinks. "And there's someone else, someone who fits my future, not my past." Sherry closed her eyes, a single tear tracking through the oxygen mask straps. Tiffany. Liam didn't deny it. Tiffany St. Clair was the daughter of a venture capitalist, a woman who treated life like a vanity project. She had been consulting for Liam's firm for months. "She's waiting in the car," Liam said, checking his watch again. "She has a dinner reservation at Le Bernardin we can't miss." "Sign the papers, Sherry. I've been generous. I'm leaving you the house which you can sell to pay for. Whatever happens next." "I can't sign," Sherry whispered, her hand trembling over her stomach. "I can't move my hands." Liam walked over, his cologne sandalwood and expensive indifference filling her nose. He placed the pen in her weak fingers and guided her hand to the signature line. It wasn't an act of assistance, it was an act of force. Do it, and I'll make sure the hospital keeps the power on for another week. Don't, and I cancel the private insurance policy by midnight. With a sob that racked her failing body, Sherry allowed her hand to be dragged across the paper. The signature was a jagged scrawl, a testament to her broken spirit. Liam snatched the papers back instantly. Goodbye, Sherry. Try not to make this harder than it needs to be. He turned on his heel and walked out. The door clicked shut. Sherry stared at the ceiling, the sound of the rain intensifying. The monitor began to alarm, a high-pitched wail signaling her blood pressure was spiking to critical levels. Nurses rushed in, shouting codes, but Sherry didn't hear them. She was already drowning in the silence he left behind. The corridor outside room 404 was chaotic as the code blue team rushed in, but one man stood perfectly still in the shadows of the waiting area. Alexander King, the 33-year-old CEO of King Global and the most feared man in the tech industry, lowered the newspaper he had been pretending to read. He wasn't there by accident. He had been tracking Calloway's movements for months, looking for a weakness in his rival's armor before the upcoming market merger. He hadn't expected the weakness to be a human tragedy. He had watched Liam Calloway exit the room, straighten his tie, and smirk as he walked toward the elevator. He saw the text message Calloway sent as he walked by. It's done. I'm free. Champagne is on me. Xander's grey eyes, usually cold and calculating, darkened with a fury he rarely felt. He knew Sherry Collins not personally, but by reputation. She was the silent architect behind Calloway's user interface algorithms. She was the brilliance Liam claimed as his own. To see her discarded like a depreciating asset disgusted him. Mr. King. Xander turned. His personal assistant, a sharp woman named Beatrice, stood behind him holding a tablet. The hospital administrator is asking why we're here. Do you want me to fabricate a story? No, Xander said, his voice a low rumble. Buy the debt. Beatrice blinked. Sir, Calloway just cut her off. I heard the threat. Find out how much outstanding medical debt Sherry Collins has, and buy it. Then have her transferred. Transferred? Where? The storm has grounded the medevac choppers. To the East Wing. The VIP suite. Get Dr. Aris Thorne on the phone. I don't care if he's in Geneva. Fly him here. Get the best cardiologists in the state. Put it all on my personal account. Sir, Beatrice hesitated. This is a significant liability if she dies. She won't die, Xander said, looking toward the door where nurses were frantically working, because I have a use for her. And because Liam Calloway just made the biggest mistake of his life. Inside the room, the world was fading to white for Sherry. The pain in her chest was a crushing weight. She felt the twins kicking, a frantic distress signal. I'm sorry, she thought. I failed you. Suddenly, the frantic energy in the room shifted. The door banged open, not for a crash cart, but for a new authority. A man in a charcoal trench coat strode in, the room seeming to shrink around his presence. Stabilize her for transport, Xander commanded. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried a weight that made the head nurse pause. Sir, you can't be in here. Who are you? The doctor shouted, charging the defibrillator paddles. I am the man paying for this hospital wing, Xander said, flashing a black titanium card. She is being moved to the penthouse suite. Dr. Aris is on video link in 5 minutes. Now save her, or I will dismantle this hospital brick by brick and sue you for malpractice so severe you'll never practice medicine in this hemisphere again. The doctors didn't argue. The sheer force of his will, combined with a recognition of who Alexander King was, kick-started a new level of urgency. Sherry, hovering on the edge of consciousness, felt a warm, large hand grip her cold one. It wasn't the clammy, forced touch of Liam. It was rough, firm, and grounding. Stay with me, Sherry. A deep voice commanded, penetrating the fog. Spite is a powerful motivator. Live long enough to make him pay. It was the most romantic thing anyone had ever said to her. Sherry squeezed his hand back just once, before the dot mistook her. 8 months later, the view from the terrace of the King Global estate in the Swiss Alps was breathtaking. Snow-capped peaks pierced the blue sky, overlooking a valley of pristine white. But the woman standing at the railing was more captivating than the view. Sherry stood tall, the mountain breeze catching the silk of her emerald dress. She looked nothing like the fragile, grey-skinned woman in the ICU. Her hair was a glossy chestnut cascade, her skin luminous with health, and her eyes sharp with intelligence. "They're asleep," a voice came from behind her. Sherry turned, a genuine smile softening her face as she looked at Xander. He was leaning against the glass door, holding 2 tumblers of scotch. "Both of them?" she asked. "Both of them," she asked. Leo fought it, but Mia went down instantly. "Mrs. Higgins is watching them." Sherry took the glass he offered. "Thank you for everything. I say it every day, but it never feels like enough." In the months since that night, Xander had done the impossible. He had brought in specialists who performed an experimental surgery to repair her heart valve while keeping the baby safe. He had hidden her away in his private estate, shielding her from the press and, more importantly, from Liam. The twins, Leo and Mia, were born healthy. Though small, they were now 4 months old, thriving, and possessing the blue eyes of their mother. "You don't owe me, Sherry," Xander said, stepping closer. "You've repaid me tenfold with the code you wrote for the Hydra project." It was true. While recovering, Sherry hadn't stayed idle. To keep her mind off the heartbreak, she had reworked the back end of Xander's logistics software, optimizing it by 40%. She had given King Global a lethal edge over Callaway tech. "It was the least I could do," she replied, looking out over the mountains. "So, what's the news from Seattle?" Xander's expression shifted, the predator returning to his eyes. "Callaway tech is bleeding. Liam's new revolutionary interface, the one he tried to build without you, is buggy. Clients are dropping him. He's desperate. And Tiffany, spending money he doesn't have. She's remodeling their penthouse for a Vogue shoot, completely unaware that the bank is threatening foreclosure on his commercial properties." Sherry took a sip of the drink, the burn grounding her. "Does he know about?" "The twins? No. He thinks you died." Sherry gripped the railing. "He thinks I died." "I controlled the narrative," Xander explained calmly. "There was an obituary for a Jane Doe in the public ward where he left you. He assumed it was you and never bothered to check. He didn't even pay for a funeral, Sherry. He sent an assistant to handle the remains. And when they couldn't find a record because I had moved you, he just stopped asking. The cruelty still had the power to sting, but it no longer broke her. It calcified her. He abandoned his children," she said, her voice turning to ice. "He abandoned his future," Xander corrected. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a gold-embossed invitation. "The Global Tech Summit is next week in New York. Liam will be there. He's planning to pitch a merger to me to save his company. He thinks he's meeting a silent partner from King Global." He handed the card to her. "He isn't meeting a partner," Xander said, his eyes locking onto hers. "He's meeting the new Vice President of Innovation at King Global." Sherry looked at the card. It bore her maiden name, but with a title that commanded power. "Are you ready to introduce him to the competition?" Xander asked. Sherry thought of the twins sleeping in the nursery, safe and warm because of a stranger's kindness, while their father bought handbags for a mistress. "I'm not just ready to introduce him," Sherry said, placing the glass down. "I'm ready to bury him." Xander smirked. "Good. Because I already bought the dress. It's red, the color of war." The grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel in New York was a sea of black ties and designer gowns. The Global Tech Summit was the event of the season, a place where billion-dollar deals were made over champagne and caviar. Liam Callaway stood near the ice sculpture, a glass of scotch in his hand, trying to mask the tremor in his fingers. He looked tired. The last 8 months had not been kind. The freedom he had bought with his divorce had been expensive. Tiffany's spending was voracious, and the IPO had stalled when the beta version of his software crashed during a live demo in Tokyo. "Stop fidgeting, Liam," Tiffany hissed. "Adjusting the strap of a diamond-encrusted gown, you look desperate. It's unflattering." "I am desperate, Tiff," Liam muttered, scanning the room. "If Xander King doesn't agree to this merger, we're finished. The banks are calling in the loans on the servers." "He'll agree," Tiffany said dismissively, checking her reflection in her phone. "You're Liam Calloway. You built the C interface. He needs your tech." Liam didn't have the heart to tell her that the C interface was 90% Sherry's code, and without her to patch it, the system was slowly eating itself. He pushed the thought of his dead ex-wife away. It was a necessary sacrifice, survival of the fittest. Suddenly, the hum of conversation in the room died down. A hush swept from the entrance like a wave. Heads turned. Whispers broke out. "Is that him? Who is the woman? My God, look at that dress." Liam turned toward the grand staircase. Alexander King stood at the top, looking like a modern-day emperor in a tuxedo that fit him like a second skin. But no one was looking at Xander. They were looking at the woman on his arm. She was stunning. She wore a gown of crimson velvet that hugged every curve, with a slit that revealed a long, sculpted leg. Her hair was swept up in an intricate chignon, revealing a diamond necklace that likely cost more than Liam's entire company. She moved with a regal grace, her hand resting lightly on Xander's forearm. Liam squinted. There was something familiar about the tilt of her head, the shape of her eyes. But it couldn't be. Sherry was dead. She was a bloated, sickly thing that had expired in a public ward. This woman radiated power and vitality. "Who is that?" Tiffany asked, her voice laced with jealousy. "I don't know," Liam whispered. Xander and the mystery woman descended the stairs, the crowd parting for them. They walked straight toward the podium at the front of the room. Xander stepped up to the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," Xander's voice boomed. "Thank you for coming. Tonight, King Global is proud to announce a new era. We are launching the Hydra system, a platform that makes all existing interfaces obsolete." Liam froze. Hydra, that was the name of the project he had tried to start but failed. "But I cannot take credit for this innovation," Xander continued, turning to the woman in red. "I would like to introduce the architect of Hydra and the new partner of King Global, Ms. Sherry Collins." The name hit Liam like a physical blow. He dropped his glass. It shattered on the marble floor, the sound echoing in the silence. Sherry stepped to the mic. She looked out over the crowd, her gaze sweeping the room until it locked onto Liam. Her eyes were cold, hard flint. She didn't smile. "Thank you, Xander." Her voice was clear, strong, and unmistakably hers. "It is a pleasure to be back from the dead." The crowd chuckled, thinking it was a figure of speech. Liam felt the blood drain from his face. Tiffany stared at him, eyes wide. "You said she was dead," Tiffany shrieked, forgetting to whisper. Sherry continued, her eyes never leaving Liam. "Sometimes, you have to lose everything to realize your true value. Innovation isn't just about code. It's about resilience. And tonight, King Global isn't just launching a product. We're burying the competition." She raised her glass in a mock toast directly at Liam. Liam stumbled back, his mind reeling. "It's impossible. I saw the papers. I saw her dying." "Liam," Tiffany grabbed his arm, her nails digging in. "Fix this. Whatever she has, we need it. Go talk to her." I can't," Liam stammered. "Go," she hissed. Liam straightened his jacket, his survival instinct kicking in. He was a salesman after all. He could spin this. She was still Sherry. She had loved him once. She was soft. He could manipulate her. He pushed through the crowd, approaching the stage as Sherry and Xander stepped down. "Sherry?" Liam called out, forcing a smile onto his pale face. "Sherry, my God!" Sherry stopped. Xander stood beside her, his presence a protective wall. But he let Sherry handle it. "Liam, she said, her tone as cool as the champagne in her hand. "You look tired." I thought you were gone," Liam said, trying to sound emotional. "The hospital told me. Oh, Sherry, I've been grieving for months. I didn't know. If I had known you survived. If you had known I survived, you would have what?" Sherry cut him off, her eyebrow raised. "Sued me for the house back." "No. No, baby. Listen." Liam reached for her hand, but Xander stepped forward, blocking him. Liam flinched. "Sherry, we made a mistake. Sherry, we made a mistake. Sherry, we made a mistake." I was under pressure. I wasn't thinking clearly. But seeing you now, you look incredible. We can fix this. We can be a family again. Sherry laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. "A family? You mean with Tiffany? Or did you forget she's standing 10 feet away glaring at me?" "I'll leave her," Liam said quickly, his voice low. "She means nothing. You're my wife, Sherry." "Ex-wife," Sherry corrected. "You signed the papers, remember? I can't be tied to a corpse." That was the line, wasn't it? People nearby were starting to listen, sensing the drama. "Sherry, please," Liam begged, seeing his business crumbling. "The twins, did they?" "They're alive," Sherry said, her voice softening dangerously. "No thanks to you. I have a son, a daughter." Liam's eyes lit up with a new angle. "I have rights, Sherry, and their father." Sherry stepped closer, invading his personal space. The scent of her perfume, something expensive and dark, filled his senses. "You are a sperm donor, Liam. You surrendered your rights when you walked out of the ICU, and if you ever try to come near Leo or Mia, I won't just sue you. I will release the security footage from the hospital room." Xander kept it. "The whole world will see Liam Calloway telling his dying wife she's a bad investment." Liam went white. Now, Sherry stepped back, brushing invisible dust from her shoulder. "Enjoy the buffet, Liam. It's the last free meal you're going to get for a while." She turned and walked away, Xander placing a possessive hand on the small of her back. Liam stood alone in the center of the ballroom, the shattered glass at his feet reflecting his broken reality. The morning after the gala, the headlines were brutal. King Global rises, Callaway Tech crashes, the resurrection of Sherry Collins. Liam sat in his office, the blinds drawn. His phone had been ringing non-stop since 6 a.m. Investors pulling out, the board calling for an emergency meeting, the bank freezing his credit lines. Tiffany burst into the office, slamming the door. She wasn't wearing makeup, and her eyes were puffy. "My credit card was declined at Starbucks, Liam." "Starbucks?" she screamed, throwing her purse on his desk. "What is going on?" "We're liquidating," Liam said, his voice hollow. "It's over, Tiff. Xander King bought the debt. He owns the building. He owns the servers. He owns everything. So do something," she yelled. "Go to a house. Beg. Use the kids. I am not going to be poor, Liam. She won't see me, then force her to see you." Liam looked at Tiffany. He saw the ugliness beneath the surface now. He realized he had traded a diamond for a piece of glass. "Fine," Liam stood up, grabbing his coat. "I'm going to the King estate. I'm going to get my children. Andio. I'm Bone. To Gen estate. I'm going to get my children." I enter. The King estate in the Hamptons was a fortress. High walls, iron gates, and security guards that looked like ex-military. Liam's Tesla screeched to a halt at the intercom. "Liam Calloway here to see Sherry Collins," he shouted. There was a pause. Then the gate clicked open. Liam drove up the long driveway, his heart pounding. He didn't have a plan, just desperation. He parked and stormed up the steps. The front door opened before he could knock. It wasn't a servant. It was Xander. "You have 5 minutes," Xander said, stepping aside, "and if you raise your voice, my security team will remove you. Physically." Liam brushed past him into the foyer. It was magnificent marble floors, art that belonged in museums. In the living room, Sherry sat on a white sofa, feeding a baby with a bottle. Another baby was sleeping in a bassinet nearby. The sight of them stopped Liam cold. They were real. His children. Sherry didn't look up. "You're trespassing, Liam." "The gate was open, Liam." "The gate was open," Liam said, his voice trembling. He looked at the baby in her arms. This is Leo," Sherry said, burping the infant gently. "Mia is asleep." "They're beautiful," Liam whispered, a pang of genuine regret hitting him. "Sherry, look at them. They need a father." "They have a father," Sherry said calmly. "Sander adopted them last month." Liam reeled back as if slapped. "What? You can't do that. I never consented." "You were declared negligent," Sherry said, finally looking at him. "Abandonment. Attempted manslaughter by withdrawing medical support. Zander's lawyers made a very compelling case. You didn't even show up to the hearing, Liam. You were in Cabo with Tiffany. I didn't know about the hearing. Because you didn't read your mail. You were too busy partying." Sherry stood up, handing the baby to a nanny who had quietly appeared. She waited until the children were out of the room before turning back to Liam. "Why are you here, Liam?" "I want them back," Liam said, though his voice lacked conviction. "I want my family back. I made a mistake. I was scared. You can't punish me forever for being scared." "Scared?" Sherry laughed, stepping closer. "I was dying, Liam. I was terrified, and you looked at me like I was a broken laptop. You didn't leave because you were scared. You left because you were scared. You left because you were selfish. You calculated that I was a loss. Well, recount the figures, Liam, because I am the one who just acquired Callaway Tech." Liam's eyes widened. "What?" "This morning," Zander spoke up from the doorway, leaning against the frame. "Hostile takeover. Your board voted you out an hour ago. Sherry owns 51% of your company. She is your new boss." Liam sank onto the nearest chair, his legs giving out. No, that's my life's work." "It was our life's work," Sherry corrected fiercely. "I wrote the code. I stayed up nights while you slept. I built that company, Liam. You just wore the suits. And now I'm taking it back. For my children. You can't leave me with nothing," Liam whispered, tears streaming down his face. "I have debts." "Tiffany." "Tiffany left you 20 minutes ago." Zander checked his phone. "She was seen leaving your apartment with her luggage. She's flying to Miami with a hedge fund manager." Liam put his head in his hands. He was completely alone. Sherry looked down at him. There was no pity in her eyes, only a resolved calm. "I'm not leaving you with nothing, Liam," she said. "I'm leaving you with exactly what you left me with. A choice." "Leaving you with exactly what you left me with." She walked to a side table and picked up a folder identical to the blue one he had thrown on her hospital bed. She tossed it into his lap. "Those are the employment papers," Sherry said. "I'm offering you a job. Junior developer. Entry-level salary. No benefits. Report to the basement office on Monday." Liam stared at the papers. It was humiliating. It was a death sentence for his ego. "Why would I take this?" he spat. "Because," Sherry smiled, and it was the smile of a predator. "It's the only way you can pay off the medical debt Zander bought. If you don't take the job, we seize your assets by noon. Your car, your apartment, your watch. You'll be on the street." Liam looked at Zander, then at Sherry. He looked at the luxury around him, the life that could have been his if he had just held on for one more week, if he had just been a decent man. He looked down at the contract. "Junior developer." "I hate you," Liam whispered. "Get in line," Sherry replied, turning her back on him. "And Liam, don't be late on Monday. I hate tardiness." The basement of King Global Headquarters, affectionately known by the engineering staff as the dungeon, was a place where ambition went to die. It was a windowless expanse of grey linoleum and humming server racks, illuminated by the headache-inducing buzz of fluorescent strips that flickered with maddening irregularity. The air was stale, recycled through vents that hadn't been cleaned in years, carrying the permanent scent of ozone and burnt coffee. For the past 6 months, this had been Liam Calloway's entire world. He sat in a cramped cubicle in the back corner, staring at a monitor that was half the size of the one he used to have in his penthouse office 40 floors above. His bespoke suits, once the armor of a tech titan, now hung loosely on his frame, the cuffs fraying slightly at the edges. He looked older. The stress of bankruptcy and the humiliation of his public fall had carved deep lines around his mouth and eyes. "Hey, Liam!" Liam's jaw tightened. He didn't turn around. He knew that voice. It belonged to Kevin, his 22-year-old team lead. Kevin wore graphic t-shirts to work, drank energy drinks for breakfast, and possessed an arrogance that Liam found physically painful to witness. "I'm working, Kevin," Liam gritted out, his fingers hovering over the keyboard. "Yeah, well, you're working wrong," Kevin said, rolling his ergonomic chair into Liam's personal space. He reached over, his hands smelling of Doritos, and tapped Liam's screen. "Your syntax on the login module is archaic. We don't use those libraries anymore. It's bloated. Clean it up by 5, or I'm writing you up again." Liam felt a vain throb in his temple. 6 months ago, he could have fired Kevin for breathing too loudly. Now he had to nod. He had to submit. The employment contract Sherry had forced him to sign was ironclad. If he was fired for cause, the deal was void, and the debt collectors would strip him of the tiny studio apartment he now rented in Queens. "I'll fix it," Liam said, his voice flat. "Good man," Kevin said condescendingly, patting Liam on the shoulder before spinning his chair away. "And try to look alive, Calloway. We're changing the world down here." Liam stared at the cursor blinking on his screen. "Changing the world," he thought bitterly. "I built this world, and you're just renting space in it." To distract himself from the urge to smash the keyboard, Liam looked up at the wall-mounted television in the break area. It was tuned to the internal King Global newsfeed, a propaganda machine that ran 24 hours a day. Usually, it showed stock prices or weather. Today, it was showing her. Breaking news: Sherry Collins and Alexander King, a noun cageman. Liam froze. The footage showed a press conference in the main lobby. Xander King, looking like a god of war in a charcoal suit, was holding Sherry's hand. And Sherry, she was glowing. Sherry's hand. And Sherry, she was glowing. She wore a white dress that made her look like a bride already. She was laughing at something. Xander whispered, a genuine, carefree sound that Liam hadn't heard in years. Then the camera panned out. Xander wasn't just holding Sherry's hand. He was holding Mia in his other arm, and Sherry was balancing Leo on her hip. The twins, Liam's biological children, were clinging to Xander as if he were the center of their universe. The headline flashed in bold red letters, "The King Dynasty Grows." Something inside Liam snapped. It wasn't a loud break. It was a quiet, irrevocable fracture. For months he had told himself that this was temporary, that he was just biding his time, that eventually Sherry would fail and he would be there to pick up the pieces. But looking at that screen, he realized the truth. She wasn't going to fail. She had erased him. She had taken his company, his money, his reputation, and now his legacy. She had replaced him completely. "They stole my life," Liam whispered, the words tasting like ash. "They took everything." He looked around the office. It was 6 p.m. The other junior developers were packing up, heading out to happy hours or dates. Kevin had already left, eager to get home to his video games. Liam didn't move. He waited. He sat in the growing silence of the dungeon until the motion sensor lights in the hallway clicked off. When he was finally alone, Liam didn't fix the login module. Instead, he opened a command terminal. His posture changed. He sat up straighter, the slump of the defeated employee vanishing. His eyes sharpened with a malicious intelligence. Sherry had rewritten 90% of the code for the new Hydra system. She was brilliant, yes, but she had been under a time crunch. To meet the launch deadline, she had kept the foundational legacy kernel, the deep, structural code that Liam had written years ago for the original Callaway interface. Liam knew that kernel better than he knew his own children. He knew where the bodies were buried. He began to type, his fingers flying across the mechanical keys, the rhythmic clack-clack, the only sound in the basement. He wasn't navigating the new, shiny interface. He was digging into the dirt. He bypassed the security protocols, ignored the firewalls, and drilled down into the ancient architecture of the system. He was looking for something specific. Years ago, in a fit of paranoia, he had hard-coded a God mode backdoor into the system. It was a tool designed to let him spy on employee emails and override executive decisions without leaving a digital footprint. He had hidden it under layers of junk data and innocuous-looking driver files. "Come on," he muttered, sweat beading on his forehead. "Be there. Don't tell me you found it, Sherry." He executed a search script. The screen scrolled rapidly. Then it stopped. ACCESS granted. Root privileges enabled. Liam let out a breath that was half laugh, half so be. It was still there. The vulnerability was wide open. For all her genius, Sherry had missed the rot at the foundation. He stared at the blinking prompt. He had total control. He could delete files. He could crash the servers. But that wasn't enough. Simple vandalism wouldn't satisfy the burning hole in his chest. He didn't just want to annoy her. He wanted to destroy her. He checked the internal calendar. The Lifeline Gala was in 48 hours. King Global was donating the Hydra system to the National Organ Donor Network. It was going to be a global event, broadcast live. The system was supposed to match donors to dying patients in real time. A dark, cruel smile spread across Liam's face. "You want to save lives, Sherry," he whispered. "Let's see how you handle a mass casualty event." He began writing a script. It wasn't a crude virus. It was a masterpiece of malice. He programmed a logic bomber-delayed command sequence. He would set it to trigger the moment Sherry activated the system on stage. Instead of matching donors, the script would invert the algorithm. It would scramble the database, delete patient priority lists, and corrupt the medical records of millions of people. Chaos would ensue. Hospitals would be paralyzed. People would die. And on every screen in the world, a message would appear. Stolen tech. King Global is a fraud. It would be the end of King Global. The stock would go to zero. Xander would lose billions. Sherry would face criminal negligence charges. Their perfect little life would incinerate in seconds. But Liam wasn't suicidal. He needed a parachute. He reached into his sock and pulled out a burner phone he had bought with cash at a bodega. He dialed a number he had memorized weeks ago. The phone rang twice before a distorted voice answered. "This line is for emergencies only." "It's Callaway," Liam said, his voice steady. "I have the payload." There was a pause on the other end. It was Arthur Pendleton, the CEO of Orion Systems King Global's only remaining competitor. Pendleton had been trying to headhunt Liam for months, sensing his desperation. "You actually found a way in?" Pendleton asked, skepticism lacing his tone. "I didn't just find a way in. I own the root directory," Liam lied smoothly, though with the back door it was effectively true. "I've written a logic bomb. It triggers during the gala. The Hydra system will collapse on live television. You'll be the only viable alternative for the government contracts by Tuesday morning." "Excellent," Pendleton purred and purred. "If this works, Callaway, you'll have burned down the competition." "I don't care about the competition," Liam snapped. "I care about the payment." $10 million, Pendleton recited the terms. "Offshore account in the Caymans, untraceable. And the transport," Liam insisted. "I can't be here when it hits the fan. A private jet will be waiting at Teterboro Airport. Flight plan filed for a non-extradition country. As soon as we see the system crash, the wheels go up." Done, Liam said. Upload starts now. He hung up and crushed the phone under the heel of his shoe. He turned back to the computer. UPALOA payload. Comma. EXE. EL. Breakama EXE. YHEN payload. Liam's finger hovered over the Y. He thought of Sherry in that hospital bed begging him to stay. He thought of the divorce papers. He thought of the way she looked at Xander today like he was her savior. You wanted to be the hero, Sherry. Liam whispered to the empty room, his eyes manic. Now you can be the martyr. He pressed the key. A progress bar appeared on the screen. 0%, 20%, 50%. Liam watched it crawl forward, hypnotized. Every percentage point was a reclaim of his power. He wasn't the victim anymore. He was the architect of their doom. 100%. Upload complete. Timer set. He sat back in his cheap office chair, adrenaline flooding his system. He felt drunk on it. He reached out and grabbed the framed photo on Kevin's desk, a picture of Kevin with his dog, and knocked it face down onto the laminate. Enjoy the spotlight, Sherry, he said, standing up and grabbing his coat. Because I'm about to turn off the lights. He walked out of the dungeon, whistling a tune, leaving the terminal blinking in the darkness behind him. The trap was set. Now, all he had to do was wait for the explosion. The Lincoln Center was transformed into a cathedral of modern technology. Outside, the flashbulbs of 1,000 paparazzi turned the New York night into a strobe-lit frenzy. Inside, the air was cool, scented with expensive perfume and the ozone tang of high-powered electronics. The Lifeline Gala was not merely a party. It was a coronation. Backstage, in the velvet-draped wings, Sherry Collins stood before a full-length mirror. She smoothed the fabric of her gown, a liquid silvered creation that poured over her gown, a liquid silver creation that poured over her frame like molten mercury. It wasn't just a dress, it was armor. Tonight she wasn't the victim, the abandoned wife, or the struggling single mother. She was the Titan. You're checking your heart rate on your watch, a deep voice noted from behind her. Sherry didn't turn. She watched Xander's reflection join hers in the mirror. He looked devastatingly powerful in a midnight blue tuxedo, the sharp lines of his jaw set in grim determination. Old habits, Sherry admitted, lowering her wrist. I spent so long listening to my heart fail, Xander. Sometimes I still expect it to stop beating right when things get good. Xander stepped closer, his hands resting gently on her bare shoulders. His touch was warm, grounding her against the cold nerves fluttering in her stomach. Your heart is stronger than anyone's I know, Sherry. It survived Liam. It survived the surgery. It will survive to Liam. It survived the surgery. It will survive tonight. And the twins? She asked, her voice softening. Beatrice is with them in the VIP nursery upstairs, Xander assured her. I just checked the feed. Leo is trying to eat his own foot, and Mia is fast asleep. They are safe. They will always be safe now. I'm doing this for them, Sherry whispered, her eyes hardening as she looked at her reflection. I need them to know that their mother didn't just survive, she fought back. 5 minutes to broadcast. The stage manager's voice cut through the air, tense and professional. Ready? Xander asked, offering his arm. Sherry took a deep breath, inhaling the future. Let's go to war. Chanda. Miles away in the sub-basement of the King Global Tower, the atmosphere was a suffocating contrast. The air conditioning had been turned down for the night cycle, leaving the dungeon humid and smelling of overheated plastic and stale coffee. Liam Calloway sat alone in the pool of blue light cast by his 3 monitors. He was sweating, his bespoke shirt clinging uncomfortably to his back. His leg bounced predominantly beneath the desk, a nervous tick he couldn't suppress. On the floor beside him sat a leather duffel bag. Inside were his passport, a bundle of cash, and the burner phone that had just received a final text from Arthur Pendleton. Jet is spinning up. You have T-minus 10 minutes. Liam looked at the screen. The live stream of the gala was open in a central window. He saw the sweep of the audience. The board members who had fired him, the investors who had laughed at him, the friends who had stopped returning his calls, they were all there, smiling, oblivious to the fact that he held a digital detonator in his hand. "Laugh while you can," Liam muttered, his voice cracking in the empty room. "You think I'm just a junior developer. You think I'm his footnote." He pulled up the command terminal. The script was loaded, the payload a vicious logic bomb designed to invert the donor matching algorithm and scramble the entire database was primed. He had named the file karma.exe. The irony felt delicious to him. "You wanted drama, Sherry," he whispered to the pixelated image of his ex-wife on the screen. "I'll give you a tragedy." Shh. Shh. On the massive stage at Lincoln Center, the lights dimmed. A hush fell over the 3,000 attendees. The holographic screen behind the podium roared to life, displaying the Hydra interface, a rotating azure globe, pulsing with data streams. Sherry and Xander walked out from the wings. The applause was polite at first, then thunderous. Sherry walked with a predator's grace, her silver gown catching the light, making her look ethereal. She stepped up to the lucite podium, gripping the edges. "Welcome," she began, her voice projected clearly through the auditorium and out to millions of viewers worldwide. "For the last year, we have heard stories about the fragility of life. I know that story better than most." Liam, watching from his basement exile, rolled his eyes. "Spare me the sob story," he hissed, his finger hovering over the enter key. "But tonight isn't about the past," Sherry continued, her gaze piercing the camera lens. "Tonight is about the future. The Hydra system is the most advanced logistical medical network ever created. It connects donors to patients in milliseconds, bypassing bureaucracy to save lives." She gestured to the oversized, symbolic digital button on the console before her. "When I press this button, the network goes live. The firewall drops. The world connects." Liam leaned forward, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. This was it. The moment she dropped the firewall, his back door would be exposed. His virus would inject itself directly into the kernel. 3. Sherry counted down. "Goodbye, King Global," Liam snarled. 2, Xander added, his voice deep and resonant. "Goodbye, Sherry," Liam whispered, a twisted grin stretching his face. 1, activate. Sherry pressed the button. Simultaneously, 4 miles away, Liam slammed his finger onto the enter key. "Boom!" Liam laughed, throwing his hands up in triumph. "Burn! Burn it all down!" He waited for the blue globe on the screen to turn angry red. He waited for the chaos. He waited for the headline, "Stolen Tech," to emblazon the screen. But the globe didn't turn red. It flickered once, then vanished entirely. Liam blinked. What? On the massive screen behind Sherry, the sleek graphics of the Hydra system were replaced by a stark, grainy black and white video window. The audio crackled, raw and unfiltered, booming through the speakers of the Lincoln Center. "I have the payload. It triggers in 48 hours. The Hydra system will collapse. I want $10 million. The voice was unmistakable. It was high-pitched with nerves, arrogant and terrified. It was Liam's voice. In the basement, Liam froze. The blood drained from his face so fast it left him dizzy. He stared at the live stream. The video playing on the giant screen behind Sherry was him. It was footage of him, sitting in this very chair, taken from a high angle, likely a pinhole camera hidden in the smoke detector. It was the recording of his call to Arthur Pendleton. The audience at the Lincoln Center gasped. A collective murmur of shock rippled through the crowd like a shockwave. On stage, Sherry didn't look panicked. She didn't look surprised. She looked satisfied. She turned her back to the screen, facing the audience, her expression one of icy calm. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the interruption. What you just witnessed was not a glitch. It was an attempted act of corporate terrorism." Liam scrambled back in his chair, his heels skidding on the linoleum. No, that's impossible. My ex-husband, Liam Calloway, Sherry said, saying his name like it was a disease, attempted to sabotage this network. He intended to scramble patient data for a payout. He was willing to let people die to bruise my reputation. Zonda stepped forward to the microphone, his presence towering. Mr. Calloway believed he found a backdoor in the legacy code, Zonda explained, his voice dark with authority. He didn't. Sherry identified his unauthorized access 6 months ago. We didn't patch it. We built a sandbox around it. Liam's mouth fell open. A sandbox. A digital isolation chamber. He hadn't been hacking the Hydra system. He had been playing in a simulation, a fake server environment designed solely to keep him busy while they recorded every keystroke. He never had access to the real network, Zonda said, his gray eyes cold. He has been uploading his virus to a dummy drive. And tonight, he didn't trigger a logic bomb. He triggered a direct uplink to the FBI Cyber Division. Liam stood up, his legs shaking violently. He grabbed the duffel bag. He had to run. He had to get to the roof. Slam. The door to the basement office flew off its hinges with a deafening crash. Federal agents. Down. Get on the ground. Red laser sights danced across Liam's chest. A team of armored agents swarmed the small room, their boots heavy on the concrete. Don't shoot! Liam screamed, dropping the bag. I'm unarmed! I surrender! He was tackled to the ground, his face pressed into the dirty floor he had despised for months. Cold steel cuffs bit into his wrists, locking tight. Liam Calloway, you are under arrest for corporate espionage, attempted sabotage of critical infrastructure, and wire fraud, an agent barked, hauling him up. As they dragged him toward the door, Liam caught one last glimpse of the monitor. Sherry was looking directly into the camera. It felt like she was looking through the fiber optics, through the screen and straight into his soul. She wasn't smiling anymore. Her face was a mask of absolute terrifying finality. You tried to kill me once, Liam, she said, her voice echoing in the small room, following him as he was dragged away. I survived. You tried to kill my company. It survived. But you're obsolete. The agent shoved Liam through the doorway. The last thing he heard before the darkness of the hallway swallowed him was the sound of the world giving his wife a standing ovation. And that is the incredible twisted story of how Sherry Collins turned her tragedy into a triumph. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the person who leaves you is doing you the greatest favor of your life. Liam thought he was discarding a burden, but he was actually releasing a queen to find her king. What do you think? Did Liam get the punishment he deserved, or was 20 years too light for a man who abandoned his dying wife and children? And would you have the strength to plot a revenge as detailed as Sherry's? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story of justice, heartbreak, and sweet revenge, please smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new story. We post new drama every week. Thanks for listening, and remember, the best revenge is massive success.